Hey up, I know I'm a bit early. Couple of minutes. But I thought, what the heck? Let's just start. I might start yawning because I'm really tired. I think I said that last week, didn't I? But it's true. But anyway, hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek. And it's Friday night's appointment with fear. Yay! And tonight's film is Night of the My brain is going doolally. Tonight's film is Night of the Demon, which is a classic 1957 British horror film, not to be confused with Night of the Demons, which were equally classic, some might say, gruesome horror film from 1988, which was remade in about 2009, I think. And to be honest, I quite like that remake as well. But it's not that. It's this Night of the Demon from 1957, an old black and white film, one of my favourite films of all time. So we'll start watching that. It stars Dana Andrews and Niall MacGinnis, and directed by Jacques Tournier, who I believe was like a protege, or he worked for Val Lewton, and learned some lessons from Val Lewton, as we will see when we start up the film in a minute or two. But in the meantime, I will hit the intro and we'll get on with it, eh? Right, I'm back, and it's 9 o'clock, which means it's appointment with fear night. And as luck would have it, I've been doing an A to Z for Halloween from October the 1st. I've been doing an A to Z of horror films for Halloween, and as luck would have it, tonight just happens to be N night. So we've landed with Night of the Demon. So we'll get it on. There we go. So we begin with the Columbia logo. There it is in all its glory. And there we go. We see Stonehenge. Stonehenge really doesn't have much to do with this film. Really, a little bit. Dana Andrews' character Holden, pardon me, visits Stonehenge for a bit of information, but that's it's not really important, to be honest. The story is loosely based on Casting the Runes, a story by M.R. James, the great M.R. James. But anyway, we will move on. More Stonehenge. It's a place I've never been. Nearly went a couple of years ago, but my son wouldn't go. Because we got there and it was closed. It was too early in the morning and it was closed. I thought it might have opened at 9 o'clock, like most places do, but it didn't. And my son wouldn't wait for it to open, because you can't just walk up to it these days. You've got to go through, gates and things that are locked. But anyway, that's enough of my woes. More Stonehenge. We're going to see the title in a minute. There we go. Columbia Pictures Corporation presents a Sabre film production. Some great production company names, didn't they? In the olden days. There we go. Night of the Demon, 1957. Anyway, so as I said before, it stars. There we go. Stars Dana Andrews and Niall MacGinnis. You may know Niall MacGinnis if you're a bit of a geek. He played Zeus in Jason and the Argonauts, the Ray Harryhausen version. He played Zeus in that, but he's been in like a million other films. He's one of these that you've seen in other things. But I think his most famous other role, apart from this, was as Zeus in Jason and the Argonauts. And as we said there, look, based on the story, Casting the Rules by Montague R. James, who wrote other things, like Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, or whatever it's called, and others. Ghost Stories is mostly known for. So we'll get through the credits. Right, off we go. We're off into the story now. We see a car bombing through the woods, as you can see. There it is. And what it is, this is Dr. Oh, God, I forgot his name. Tell you, I should have notes. I'll have to look it up. I'm going to have to look it up. I should take notes and have all this already, shouldn't I? But what the heck? Oh, see, I've typed in Night of the Demons now, and it's showing me the other versions. There we go. Right, that's it. Professor Harrington. I knew it'd begin with H, because, I knew it'd be, but, ooh. So Professor Harrington is speeding his way to the home of Dr. Karswell, the Niall MacGinnis character, Dr. Julian Karswell. So he's heading there. There we go, Lllllove Hall. It's a nice big mansion. I believe it's a stately home where it was filmed at. And apparently it's paid for by his followers, whom we never really see, to be honest. Not really. One or two, but it's not like they have big group meetings. But anyway, so he's come to see... there he is. He's come to see... He's got a butler. He's come to see Julian Karswell. And apparently a spell's been put on him, or a hex, or whatever. And he's come to Karswell to have it removed. Dr. Harrington is a skeptic, and he wrote a paper or an article that ended up in the press, poo-pooing and belittling Julian Karswell and his followers in public. And Karswell said, I will have revenge, and he told him, I'll do my worst. And and Professor Harrington said, well, go on then. So he did. So he put a curse on him. So he thinks he's going to die. According to the curse, he's going to die at 10 o'clock. And it's almost 10 o'clock now. So he asks, apparently we're handed a piece of paper with some runes on. Remember, it's called Casting, based on a story called Casting the Runes. So we're given a piece of paper with some runes on. And so Karswell asks him, do you have the paper with the runes? And he says, no, it burned up, I'm afraid. And this obviously disturbs Karswell, because there's nothing he can do about it now. Because apparently the only way to get rid of the spell is to pass it on to somebody else. So obviously he can't do that now, because it's burned up. So anyway, so he lies. He says, well, I'll do what I can. You return home. But he's doomed, is Professor Harrington. So off he goes. By the way, Professor Harrington promised to, retract everything he said about Karswell. But he don't get the chance. So he goes back home, sets off back home. And he pulls into his garage. But then as he gets out, he hears a noise. See if we can hear it. Hang on. Ready. Any minute now, we'll hear it, because it's an important noise in the film. There we go. You ready? There it is. The demon cometh. So here it comes out of the woods. By the way, there's a sound bite from this film that was used by Kate Bush in a song, The Hounds of Love. It's in the trees, it's coming. That's later on in the film. But anyway, this cloud appears with some sparkly lights, and this is the appearance of the demon. Apparently, I've gone too far already. And there it is. There we go. So we see it straight away. Not close up, but close up enough. We see it straight away at the beginning of the film. Apparently, Jacques Tourneur, however you pronounce it. In America, they just called him Jack Turner. But he's a Frenchman called Jacques Tourneur. He didn't want us to see the demon at all. He wanted it to be all in, as imagination. Is it real or is it all part of the mind? But the producers overruled him, and they had scenes like this filmed and added in. without Turnier's knowledge, and he wasn't happy about it. But I think it's a brilliant monster, and I think it's good that we see it right at the beginning. Here it comes, look. People say, "Oh, it looks a bit dodgy." It's 1957. It looks pretty good to me. So here it comes. It's coming after Professor Harrington. Oh, there we go. We do see it up close. I forgot we saw it up close. I thought we just saw it from a distance. But no, there it is. Look, in all its demonic glory, coming to get you. It's brilliant. I love it. See, I've gone too far again. He reversed his car out of his garage and hit a pole, an electrical cable pole, and then he gets out of the car. There we go, and he gets electrocuted for a start, but then the demon is upon him. There we go, and it gets him. So that's the end of Professor Harrington. And as we see, he knows it's time. He knows what's happened because he set it all in motion. Right, we cut to an aeroplane. I'll just go back and see if I can... there we go. There's an aeroplane. That's a real aeroplane, is that? It's not. And we find Dr... I forgot his first name. Dr. Holden. John. Dr. John Holden is travelling to Britain. He was supposed to be meeting Professor Harrington. Here we go. And he can't get to sleep because the lady behind him has got a light on. She can't sleep, and she's doing some work, and he can't sleep for the light. So he asks the hostess, as they were called back then, if he could have a blindfold, you know what they call them, a mask. But they ain't got any, so he's got to struggle. Anyway, so that's how they meet. He doesn't realise that she is the niece of Professor Harrington by coincidence. So that's how they meet. But obviously they don't know this yet. She goes to the air hostess and says, can I have another seat? I seem to be annoying the man in front, but we're fully booked. Sorry, can't. So they've just got to put up with it. Right, anyway, the plane lands. And Holden is met by... he was supposed to be met by Professor Harrington, but obviously some other people meet him, and there's some press there as well. He's going there for this big conference. There's a conference about, the paranormal. He's a skeptic and a debunker as well. And this is why we're meeting Harrington. They were going to, debunk what Julian Karswell and his followers get up to. He doesn't know yet, by the way, about Harrington's death. So here's the press asking him, what he's going to do. Pardon me. And he says, he'll do what he does. Anyway, so off he goes to the hotel. And this is when he learns about the death of Professor Harrington. Meets some of his comrades in arms. Don't ask me the names. There's this chap who I believe is supposed to be Irish, and there's another chap who's supposed to be Indian. They're there for the conference as well. So that's that. And as the story unfolds, there we go. Here we go, he's getting all ready and stuff. They're supposed to be interviewing a chap called Hobart, who's played by Brian... I'll see if it says in this list. I forgot his name. Does it say? Brian Wilde, that's it. Played by Brian Wilde, who... if you're British, you'll know him from Last of the Summer Wine. But anyway, they're going to interview this chap. He was part of Karswell's group. But apparently he's been arrested for murder, so he's now up on charges for murder. And apparently he's gone mad, so he's in a mental institute. So they're going to bring him down and they're going to hypnotise him, but they need to get permission from his family before they can do that. So he's going to do that soon. Oh, there's the other chap. The Indian fella. Right, so they're talking about what they're going to get up to. Right, so he goes to the, I think it's the British Library, and he's got a big stack of books to go through for his notes. And one of the books, the librarian says that one of the books is missing. He's going to try and find out what it is. So he says, well, I'll hopefully I can get the information from these others, but he's concerned about it because books don't just go missing because they're from the restricted section, because they're all about the occult and stuff like that. But then Karswell appears as if by magic. There he is. And he says, he's got the book in question. He says, I overheard what you were talking about, and I have a copy of the book in question. The librarian had said their copy was the only one in existence because it's over 400 years old. But he said he's got a copy. I suspect he's stolen the one from the British Museum. That's why it's missing. But anyway, he introduces himself. So we found out he introduced himself as Karswell. He's his arch nemesis. So they're meeting for the first time. And what he does, he hands a rune to Holden. Without his knowledge, he hides it in his papers. He knocks off his papers and hands them back. And as he does that, he slips the paper with the runes on. And he gives him his card. He said, come out to my house. I'll show you the book. So he's been all friendly. I'll show you the book. Here's my card with his address on. And it's got some handwritten, if it shows, if I can land on it, I bet I can't. So a handwritten note on his card. Here we go, we're going to see it here now. Hopefully. There we go. It says, in memoriam, Henry Harrington, allowed 2 weeks. So that'll be Professor Harrington. I don't know why that's written on the card that he's given to Holden. Maybe he's just gloating. But Holden is given, I think, 3 days, when we learn about his fate. But anyway, this writing disappears, magically, and there's no trace of it. You get it scientifically tested. There we go. It's vanished. Look, he gets it scientifically tested, and there's no trace of anything on the paper. It's magic. So that's what we see in a bit. Then what happens? He goes to pay his respects to Professor Harrington at the funeral, and this is where he meets his niece, who is called Joanna Harrington. This is Peggy Cummings. So he meets her, says, oh, you're the girl from the play, and he says, oh, yes, you are, blah, blah, blah. What a coincidence. So that's how they get to meet, and they become a double act now for the rest of the film, pretty much. So there we go. But not romantic. It's not romantic at all. It's just a straightforward story. They are just friends. Well, they become friends and colleagues, but there's no romance involved. It's not that sort of film. So they're talking all about Harrington, and she's got Harrington's diaries, and she learns that he kept a diary that he knew he was supposed to die at 10 o'clock on such and such a date. And he was terrified about it. And so that's how, they all found that odd that he knew it beforehand when he'd die, because his cause of death, according to the police, was, an accident. He crashed into the electricity pole and was electrocuted. Why would that happen at the exact time when he wrote? I mean, it could be argued, he did it on purpose, but we know that that's not the case. Right, he gets a call from the lab. This is what labs were like in the 1950s, that there's nothing on the card. He's had it tested thoroughly. There's nothing on the card, so it's magic. Right, so they both head out to Lllllove Hall. Can you see it? Can you make that out, by the way? We see it again later. don't know if you can make it out, but this is Joanna's car, which is a Sunbeam, I do believe, convertible. And look at the number plate, MLJ 666. Is that deliberate? I don't know. I've tried looking it up in trivia things about this film, and it's just noted that her number plate is that. Don't know if it's deliberate or if it's just ended up like that, or maybe it's the devil's work. Don't know what MLJ could stand for. I don't know, but so then they'll go there, and apparently there's a party going on. Karswell is entertaining some kids. There we go. He's pretending to be a clown, and he's doing tricks and stuff like that for these kids, local children, because he loves kids, he says. So they leave Peggy to, mess about with the kids, and Karswell and Holden go and have a chat about the book and stuff like that, and the occult. Oh, she's doing some ice cream. That's Karswell's mother. She's like a kindly old lady, but she kind of knows what's going on. I think she feels a bit guilty about that people are dying because of her son. There we go. By the way, Karswell in this, I think, is supposed to be quite a lot older than Holden in this. But in real life, Dana Andrews is, I think, about 4 years older than Niall MacGinnis. But obviously, Niall MacGinnis has had a harder life. Right, so they talk about, the occult and stuff like that. And he says, I could summon a demon, but I don't think any of us would survive. But he just summoned the wind, as we'll see in a minute, just to show his powers. There we go. The wind starts blowing. Look, are you ready? There we go. And it starts blowing all the kids about and all the... see, I've gone too far. Anyway, they go inside, blows all the party stuff away. So the party's brought to a halt because of the wind. He says he did that, but obviously Holden thinks it's just a coincidence. So they go inside. I think he shows him his book, I think. No, he don't get around to it. I think he tells him to leave, I think. So they go. And, his mother was showing Joanna one of his books, and he gets upset at that. So that's that. Right, so they head back to Holden's hotel. She drops him off. There we go. He goes inside, and I think he's going down the corridor. Is it this bit, or is that bit later? Yeah, he goes down the corridor, and he hears that noise, from earlier, that whistling noise. But nothing happens. It's just there to give us a little bit of a scare, but nothing's coming because, he's got about 3 days, hasn't he? I think the 28th, it said, is going to die at 10 o'clock on the 28th of whatever. Right, so he has another chat with his scientist friends, and he talks about a song he heard, but I can't even remember hearing it. But, he whistles it like that. He says, it sounds like an Irish folk song about the devil, and the Indian man says, it sounds like, an old, I don't know, Indian song. So there we go. So next up, I think, they find out that Holden's diary has had all the pages ripped out after the 28th, because obviously he won't need them, will he? How's that happened? We don't know. Right, he goes to see Joanna. I'm presuming this is Harrington's house. I'm presuming. So he goes there. The power's out. But they're having a nice time. Talking shop. As I said, it's nothing romantic. That's when they learned about the passing of the runes. So he says, well, Karswell could have passed something, while he were in the library, and he actually happens to have those files with him, and so he gets it out, and in a minute, Here we go. They've gone too far. Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. It goes, it opens his files up, and the rune paper whips out and tries to throw itself into the fire. There we go. Luckily, there's a fire guard. And they say, no, it's doing it itself. And obviously, Holden don't believe that. So he says, it's just the wind. He goes and closes the window and retrieves the paper and puts it in his wallet. So the next day, presumably this is the next day, he heads out to the Hobart residence, which is a farm somewhere. So obviously a simple folk. He wants to see Mrs. Hobart. Remember, he needs their permission so that they can interview Rand Hobart. So it tells them that's what they're going to do. So she signs it, and then as he's putting the paper away that she signs for him, the rune tries to jump out and escape, because that's what it tries to do, and it tries to burn itself so that you can't pass it on. That's what it's trying to do. And they see it, and they all know what Rand Hobart were into. And they didn't agree with it, by the way. She said, he's no son of mine. But they say, he's been chosen, he's going to die. But, and they send him on his way. He's still sceptical, by the way, at this point. Anyway, he thanks them, and off he goes. Right, this is when he goes to Stonehenge, and he's got the runes there, look, and he's looking at some runes that are on Stonehenge. I don't think there's any real runes like that on Stonehenge. But I think for the purposes of this film, I think like druids carved these into Stonehenge. I don't know what he's looking at them for, because it's got nothing to do with what's on his paper, I don't think, but it's just showing us that it's an ancient form of writing. Right, so he goes here. I think he had a message to meet from Karswell's mother to go to this address. And when he gets there, Joanna's there with her demonic car, as you can see there. There's the 666 number plate. She's there, so they're going together. And they're there for it turns out they're there for a seance. Here we go. And they're met by, I can't remember the name. Does it say? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Meek. That's it. Mr. and Mrs. Meek. And this is where you hear the "It's in the trees, it's coming" that you hear on the Kate Bush song. Because he's a medium and he talks, and lets spirits speak through him. And they're gonna hear from Professor Harrington, among others. So it's quite an amusing little bit, this, because they start singing and things like that, and it's quite a kooky section of the film, but it's still really good. Because it's good old classic British acting. But obviously Holden doesn't believe any of it. So here we are, the singing here. They're going to have a bit. Bloody nard. Anyway, he goes into his trance and starts speaking in various accents and stuff like that. And that's when and eventually Harrington comes through and he does the "It's in the trees, it's coming." So that's. But Holden doesn't believe a thing of it. Turns the lights on. Says, "Oh, you shouldn't do that when he's in a trance." And he's obviously suspicious about it. There we go. So he leaves, and so Mr. Meek's not very happy because he's broke the spell, sort of thing, broke the circle. But he's still a skeptic. He leaves. Off he goes. Don't believe a word of it. And as they drive away, there's Joanna and Holden. Karswell arrives and grabs his mother and takes her home because he's not happy. I think she's trying to warn him, you see. She's trying to warn Holden about what's going to happen. But Holden don't want anything to do with it. So he's having a cigarette because that smoking was the in thing back then. A lot of smoking happening in this film because it were good for you in those days. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cummings. I'm afraid you have a very weak heart. Cigarette? That sort of thing. So they decide that they're going to sneak back to Lllllove Hall, the home of Karswell, and he's going to sneak in, climb over the fence or whatever, and sneak in and get a look at that book that he didn't get a chance to at the party. So that's what he does. He goes through the spooky woods, look. It's all very atmospheric. There we go. And he climbs up this foliage. In he goes. Must know exactly where to go. But he's been before, I suppose you could argue, but got a good memory of where stuff is. He gets in through some sort of storeroom with sheet ghosts. They're not really, I know. But anyway, so they've got to do this. You know, he didn't get in through the ground floor. He's got to go through an upper floor because we've got to see spooky hands appearing in a minute. So he finds himself upstairs, obviously. So he goes down. See, I've gone too far already, look. Goes down the stairs, and there's nobody behind him, as you'll see. And I might have gone too far again. Keeps there. He looks round, and then carries on. I've missed the first one, but never mind. And he sets off again, and a disembodied hand, because then we see another shot. There we go. There's nobody there, because it's obviously that, isn't it? There's nobody there. So it's a spooky disembodied hand. I don't know why. It doesn't explain it. It's just showing that Karswell's all occult and paranormal. But it's cool. And by the way, there's a lot of jump scare music, what they call musical bangs or whatever they call them, happening, and people screaming and shouting, or trains going past, to make you jump. I think that's what they called them, a Luton bus, as in from the name Val Luton. He did that in his films. That's one of the tricks that Jacques Tourneur learned from Val Luton, to put in a jump scare that has nothing to do with the story. It's just there just to make you go, huh! Which really is the bane of modern horror films, isn't it? So they're from all the way back there. Right, so he goes into Karswell's office, and he sees this notebook, key translation on the true discoveries of witches and demons. So he has a look at that. And then there's a cat in the room. And it turns into a leopard or something. Hang on, see if we can... as he's reading that, he looks round. And there's... he's trying to watch his lighting matches and trying to read with the match. There we go, the doors shut by themselves. And then the cat appears, there we go, and turns into a leopard. There we go, magic. So he has a bit of a fight with a leopard. It's obviously a stuffed animal, but, whatever. It's not a very big leopard either, but there we go. So it's getting him. And he throws it onto the couch, and he's going to get it with a poker. Picks up a poker from the fireplace. He's about to beat it to death, and the light goes on. The light goes on, and he suddenly drops the poker. He says it's red hot. He goes, ah! And it's Karswell's there. And, he's very calm. A fella's just broke into his house, about to batter his cat to death, because we see the cat's back to normal now. But apparently the poker's not hot. He picks it up. He says, it's not hot, and puts it back. It was just hot for Holden. And the cat's called Grimalkin, which he says was a popular name in the Middle Ages. They were used in magic and the occult, witches, familiars, and all that. And the cat must be like a demon or something. He said, he had a minor demon guarding the room. So anyway, so they have another little chat. And So he's still not seen the book. And so he's about to leave. His mother comes in and says, Julian, is everything all right? He says, yes, Mr. Holden's just leaving. He's trying to show him out through the front door. But Holden says, no, I've got a rule. I always leave by the way I came. So he heads out through the window and heads back through the woods. And Karswell warns him, says, don't go through the woods, because there's things in there. So, but, obviously he don't believe him. So he sets off. Now the spooky moon. And as he goes, we hear the noise again. There we go. I think we're hearing it now. Let me. He's going to hear that noise again in a minute. Oh, there we go. Oh, I forgot about this bit. Cloven footprints appear, reminiscent of what we saw in Forbidden Planet. You remember that with the id monster that were invisible and left its footprints. So does the demon, leaves its cloven hoofed prints in the soil, accompanied by that noise. There we go. Cool stuff. Anyway, so this ball of smoke chases Holden through the woods. There we go. But as soon as he, breaks into open ground, there we go. It goes back and disappears. So they go to the police for some reason, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way. They go to the police and they report what happened, and they don't believe him. He says, I was chased by smoke in the woods, and they don't believe him. But he says, well, if you're going to file a report, I'll have to see my boss. So that's what they do. But obviously nothing's going to happen. And then they have a row because he blames her for putting it in his mind that there's occult things going on. Holden blames Joanna, so she gets mad at him. She storms out. And then Holden leaves as well. That's the policeman talking to his boss, saying, this fella thinks he's going to die at 10 o'clock on the 28th. And oh, really? What gives you that idea? And said, well, this other fella, Harrington, he had the same notion. And the thing is, he did die at 10 o'clock when he thought he were going to. So they're curious. But Holden, this is where they're going to fall out. But Holden says, forget it. Never mind. So, right, next up, she phones up. There's Karswell's mother. She wants to speak to, I think she's trying to get in touch with Holden, but he won't take her calls. And Karswell obviously puts a stop to that. She says, oh, stop doing what you're doing. Obviously, she don't like what's happening. Bless her. This is Joanna going out in her motoring car. Can't remember where she's going. Right, so this is when they're gonna hypnotise Hobart. Because apparently he was supposed to die. He must have passed on the rune to somebody else. Maybe it was Harrington. I don't know. Can't remember. But anyway, they brought him by ambulance to this wherever they're doing this interview. Hypnotic interview. There we go, Victoria Hall. Oh, right, very good. But obviously it's a public thing that they're doing. Presumably these are scientists and press that are there. So they're going to hypnotise him and ask him about, what went on with Karswell. And it doesn't go well. There he is, Brian Wilde. I think he played Foggy in Last of the Summer Wine. It doesn't go well. It starts off okay. Here we go. They're pumping full of drugs as well, by the way. As well as hypnotising him, they drug him up. And they talk to him, and he says it's all, it's Karswell that's behind everything. And then he throws himself out the window, as we'll see in a moment. After they hypnotise him. He's like, goes mental. Well, not goes mental, but goes there we go. Goes deranged and throws himself out the window. Here he goes, look, let me out of here. And I think he's showing him the rune thing, and that's what sets him off. And there we go. See, I've gone too far. There we go. It runs down the corridor. Oh, didn't work that time. I'll try another time. And they nearly followed him, didn't they? No such thing as safety guardrails, is there? Not back then. Right, so that's Hobart that's dead and gone. So he's starting to think there's more to it now, is Dana Andrews. He finds out then that Karswell's on the train with Joanna. I keep calling her Peggy. I know the actress is called Peggy. With Joanna, and they're going to Brighton on the train for some reason. So he heads there to the train station, buys a ticket, gets on the train, and confronts Karswell. The police are there already because they've been following Karswell apparently, because they were suspicious about him. So he finds Karswell's cabin there. There's Joanna with him. He's got her under a bit of a trance because he didn't want to talk to her. He just wanted a bit of peace and quiet. But he brings her round. But they have a talk, and apparently he's terrified. He's Karswell. That's why he's getting out of town. He don't want Holden to have the opportunity to give him the piece of paper back with the runes on. So he won't accept anything from Holden. He won't take a cigarette. He gives Holden a box of matches, but he won't take the matches back. He won't accept a book. A book that we're reading. Holden tries to give him. It's, oh, you forgot your book. He's, oh no, it's not mine. But he does trick him, and he gets his. The police arrive because he grabs hold of him. The police arrive, say, "Let him go, Holden." So they're going to let Karswell go. And here we go. Holden gives him his coat. He sets off. You see, he's got his bag, and then he says, "Oh, you forgot your coat," and he hands it. His hat and coat, and he hands his coat to Karswell, and Karswell realises what's happened. Dun dun dun, and he's put the rune in the coat pocket. So Karswell's and it takes it out, and it buggers off by itself like it does. So he's chasing the piece of paper. There we go. Train's bombing about there with the piece of paper's fluttering down the train track, and he doesn't catch it, and it burns away. Look, there we are. There we see it burning away, and then the demon appears in a moment. Here we go. He's running there. More trains. There we go. The demon appears, and it picks up Karswell, rips him to bits, and throws him down, and then disappears. And then the police and Holden see his smoking body on the tracks. There we go. Not they think he's been hit by a train because they mustn't have seen the demon. I think only the person that's cursed gets the demon. Gets to see the demon. But they think he's been hit by the train and dragged, and Holden doesn't want to get too close, and he goes back to Peggy and says, "Come on, let's get out of here," because he knows he's safe now. And that's it. The end of the film. Great film. Good old-fashioned spooky film with a great monster. So we'll turn that off now. So there you go. I really like that film. It's a good old-fashioned spooky film. They could have done a little bit more, I think, with the supernatural stuff. Had some, a bit like Devil Rides Out, have a bit more things like that happening. More, occult activities and demons and spooky stuff. But never mind. But it's a really good film, and it'd be good if they did a remake. I think a modern remake. Either for TV or for movies, it'd be good, I think, with a cool monster, but they just use CG, and it wouldn't be the same, would it? It wouldn't be the same. So we'll leave it there. A quick do tonight. Because I'm tired and I want to go to bed. So anyway, so thank you for watching. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos and all that stuff. And there's me up there. Where's me up there? Is me social media stuff. If you want to get in touch, I think you can. I think I've got an email address that's on my YouTube channel somewhere in the about section somewhere. If you want to get in touch with maybe tips of what I could watch on a Friday night. Right, so wherever you are, don't have nightmares, and until next time, I'll see thee.